Since 1998, the International Space Station has been located in a relatively low orbit around Earth. However, it was in November 2000 that the first component equipped with long-term life support was installed. Since then, the International Space Station has hosted over 250 explorers from 20 different countries. During the course of its history, the corporation has constructed enormous space stations relative to those of NASA, CSA, and the ROS Cosmos. What exactly is the intention behind the International Space Station? The International Space Station, or ISS, is a NASA facility that was developed with the exclusive aim of carrying out scientific research. Here in this video, we'll be talking about the recent unexplained structure detected near ISS. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to take a deep dive into the vast unknown with me as we explore extraterrestrial life forms. Let's get started. In the 1980s, after the Apollo Simple Lunar Landing project was canceled, primarily due to financial restrictions, the idea of freedom was dreamed of and developed. At that point in time, humans have already taken a variety of moves in response to demand. It contains missions 11 and 12, which took place in 1969, 14 and 15, which transpired in 1971, and 16 and 17, which took place in 1972. As a consequence of this, the prime aim of scientific institutions has been development of a rudimentary space station to carry out research, improve Earth and celestial analysis, act as a transport system and handling server for satellite systems or machines, and act as a staggering route for deep space missions, such as exploration programs and the possibility of future missions to Mars. They make some peculiar discoveries following such a lengthy period spent within the void. The tracker has stumbled onto a fascinating object or phenomenon that experts need to learn more about. The photograph, given by the ISS sensor, reveals a long white object with several very faint white specks in its background, close to its position against a pitch-black backdrop of space, underneath the undulating surface of the planet. During a video feed from the International Space Station, the hacker managed to get a picture of something that no one could identify. The possibility of intelligent alien life has always piqued the interest of people, researchers, and astronomers. There was a theory that UFOs were investigating enormous facilities. The potential that life exists anywhere in the universe has been disregarded by researchers, who have also disregarded the notion that extraterrestrial beings may ever visit Earth. But due to several peculiar sites taken by various systems, they keep their fingers crossed that they will find proof that life exists beyond Earth. In addition, researchers have uncovered evidence of a strong eruption in space, and astronomers have reported seeing this enormous explosions for themselves. NASA's Swift Observatory identified a huge gamma-ray burst, which was built to detect the most intense outbreaks ever seen in the cosmos, referred to as gamma-ray bursts. This observatory was successful in its mission. The explosions and the subsequent collapses of massive stars are referred to as supernovae. Experts claim that these events generate these powerful jets moving through space. For a star to experience a supernova, it needs to be huge and around 8 times as big as the size of the Sun. But for a supernova to create the most powerful gamma-ray outburst, the star must be approximately 30 to 40 times the size of the Sun. Because of how uncommon this recent spectacular detection is, it's possible that we will only see anything of this magnitude emerge from a huge star once every 10 years at most. An astrophysicist or postdoctoral associate at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center of Astrophysics named Yvette Sendez stated that it's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Still, there's no need to panic about it, because this amazing explosion occurred in a galaxy 2 billion years away. When we view from a great distance, the energy that has been propagating and traveling through space for ages does not pose a danger to humans. On the other hand, satellites allow us to do with relative ease. Moreover, since astronauts and gamma rays are expected to belong to the same spectral region as FM radio, X-rays, and visible light, it's comparable to gaining front row seats at a light show. On the contrary side, gamma rays have the highest amounts of energy. Because stellar explosions are uncommon in our galaxy, scientists have never witnessed a gamma-ray explosion. This is one of the reasons why gamma-ray bursts are considered so extraordinary. In a medium-sized constellation like ours, a star will go supernova only once a decade. Still, a big star, the kind needed to create extraordinarily brilliant or extended gamma-ray outbursts, will only erupt once every million years. As a direct consequence of this, the exceptionally rare gamma-ray bursts can also be observed from a great distance due to the fact that multiple galaxies are teeming with stars in the distant universe. When opposed to the bigger universe, there's a smaller likelihood that such occurrences will take place close to us. What more do you require? Since these gamma-ray outbursts can happen at a distance of billions of years, you might point your sensor in the way of a blast funnel of power emitted to space to detect them. The equipment is made to identify them, but they are incredibly sensitive, which is another cause why finding is so vivid and intense. The problem of what to do with all the debris floating around space constitutes one of the most important issues pertaining to space exploration in the 21st century. The European Space Agency estimates that approximately 34,000 particles in orbit are larger than 10 centimeters and represent major risk to the existing space system. There are, however, some creative techniques for coping with the hazard, such as constructing satellites to deliberately enter Earth's atmosphere positioned in low Earth orbit, leading them to dissolve totally in a controlled way. This is one example of how an innovative solution. Another strategy is to steer clear of any potential head-on encounters in space, which will prevent the accumulation of debris. Scientists have recently employed machine learning to construct collision prevention techniques for their research. A further innovative strategy would be to develop machine learning models on Earth, transfer those patterns to spacecraft that are already in orbit about their route, and then utilize those models to make numerous judgments. For instance, one of the more recent ideas for guaranteeing the security of space journey is to employ pre-trained systems while on board. This provides for greater design flexibility in satellites while simultaneously lowering the chance of collisions when they are in orbit. The Earth observation satellites generate enormous volumes of data, which is the base stations obtain in pieces over a prolonged period of time. This information requires to be stitched all together before it can be evaluated. Crowdsourcing has been used for certain satellite energy modeling initiatives on a smaller scale. Still, AI may be able to save the day when it comes to doing extensive analysis of satellite data. Integrating weather information with satellite pictures to determine airspeed, for instance, has been utilized in order to figure out the amount of heat storage that is present in urban areas. In addition to other applications, artificial intelligence has helped with calculating the amount of solar radiation using input from geostationary satellites. Satellites are another potential use case for AI's data processing capability. In a new analysis, researchers examined various AI strategies for use in a system that monitors the condition of satellites from a remote location. This can examine satellite information to find abnormalities, provide a prediction on the satellite's overall health efficiency, and present representations for better decision-making. The forecasting of a voyage to Mars is challenging, but artificial intelligence could be of assistance. In the past, new space operations were typically planned based on research that had been completed previously. However, the fact that this data is typically limited or unreachable implies that the stream of technical data is constrained by who has exposure to it and who distributes it with another project design team. This implies that the target design engineers have more difficult time making decisions. Now imagine for a moment that anyone in a position of authority could obtain nearly all of the primary space mission with a few clicks of a mouse. A more sophisticated system will be able to answer complex questions using dependable and pertinent information, which may one day be used to assist in the preliminary planning stages of numerous future space missions. To cut down on the amount of time necessary for the original objective concept, which would normally take a significant time of human labor hours to complete, scientists are creating the idea of computer-aided assistant, another intelligent aid utilized in the process of designing Earth observatory spy satellites is Daphne. Networks, engineering, and satellite design engineers use Daphne because it makes their work more accessible by providing access to pertinent data, such as comments and responses to particular inquiries. Do you recall TARS and CASE? The interplanetary assistant robots that existed in the time when such robots weren't yet available for space travel. In the actual world, similar efforts are being made by mission engineers to build intelligent support for use by astronauts. However, these efforts are less showy than the ones depicted in films. It's possible that these AI-powered aids will provide to be great assistance in space research. A relatively new virtual assistant may be capable of detecting any potential hazards that may be present during extended space journeys. These hazards may include shifts in the environment of a spacecraft, such as a rise in the carbon dioxide level or a malfunctioning detector that may pose a threat. Following that, it would send a notification to the team and offer some maintenance recommendations. In December 2019, an artificial intelligence helper known as Simon was transported to the International Space Station, where it will undergo testing for the next 3 years. By completing the tasks that have been given to him, Simon will ultimately be used to help alleviate the pressure that astronauts experience. Robonaut is a partner for astronauts assisting with the ISS that is being developed by NASA. It will either work side by side with the crew or take on activities that are too risky for them to perform. On this planet, we are used to having access to devices that make use of GPS devices like Google Maps. We are not equipped with the guidance satellites that orbit the Moon or Mars. Yet we might benefit from the billions of photographs gathered by observational satellites like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. But there is presently no mechanism for other alien worlds. In 2018, a group of scientists from NASA teamed with engineers from Intel to build an intelligent GPS for exploring planets utilizing AI. They trained the model using millions of images taken during a variety of lunar exploration flights, so they could generate a digital map of the Moon. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments section. Also, at last, give this video a like. See you soon.